myself shaving earlier, but it was either do the Q&A now or wait and get distracted, so we're not that professional. There's interesting stuff today in the Q&A. Steve in particular made some really strong improvements, but that's not what I want to talk about today. Instead, something that I get asked quite a bit is smartphone use. And while I would say don't use smartphones more than just very briefly, I'd be a huge hypocrite because I use smartphones all the time. And the question is, does screen size matter? Which smartphone? And I'm a huge nerd. I have pretty much owned every kind of smartphone out there, usually with big screens. Like I've had the Sony Xperia Z Ultra, which was pretty cool, 6.44 inches with a crappy camera. I just sold that. I had the Note 2, I have the Note 3, I have the Note 4. Haven't had any iPhones since like the early days, but I finally bought one because the question just comes up too often about the iPhone. And hang on 1 second. And so an opportunity came up and I bought the iPhone 6, not the 6 Plus, since that seems to be is the more common one. And let me show you. I was pretty surprised, and I don't know if I can use this thing, quite honestly. We'll give it a few more days, but check it out. So I just pulled up a Flipboard page on both of these. This is probably definitely not the ideal way to do this, but the font size, you can't really when you read this thing, the question always to ask is how far can I hold it from my face and still read the text fairly well without straining. And my general distance thing is probably somewhere around, it doesn't even fit in the screen, like this, right? Like around here. Like that's probably the distance that I generally try to keep my phone at. And the reason for that is measure your centimeter. If you hold your phone much closer than that, see how much your centimeter distance goes down, and you'll quit doing that. It's not a good idea. The eye strain is measurable. And the thing with this iPhone 6 business is the font is it's right at a size where at that distance I can read it fine, but when I stop paying attention to the phone, it starts creeping closer to my face, which on the Note 4, it doesn't. Like the font is just big enough to where that works for me. And you know, big phones, whatever, but if you read on your phone, it's kind of a personal experience, but for me, this font is just a little bit too small. And then I tried YouTube videos, and it's just, the size is noticeable. Best way to do it though, I can't give advice as for everybody what kind of phone you should use, because your use varies and your preferences vary and your eyes vary. The thing to do is, can you keep it at kind of a casually bent arm's length, reading comfortably, or are you going to nudge it too close to your face? And when you read it at that distance, do you feel eye strain? And then the last thing is just casually check your centimeter distance and see if your usual smartphone use decreases your centimeters. Like take like a Sunday afternoon or whatever, or Sunday morning, measure your centimeter, do your usual smartphone use, and then measure your centimeter again. If it's decreased, that screen, the iPhone 6 screen, just seems to be too small. So that's the Q&A for today. There's a couple other things I want to talk about, but I want to keep these things short. So check the blog for Steve's story, pretty cool stuff. I will link that below also. It's a really good thing about persistence and sometimes changing location and changing some habits. Definitely read that one, and I'll see you in the next one.